Hi, everyone, and welcome to Smart Franchising with Fransmart. We know you're used to hearing Dan Rowe, the powerhouse behind Fransmart. But this season, we're doing something a little different. It's the Fransmart Team Takeover. We've taken over Dan's mic because, honestly, we wanted in on the fun. We've been dying to talk to some of the franchisees we admire most, and this was our shot. Each episode, a member of the Fransmart team will sit down with a franchising powerhouse to swap stories, lessons, and insider tips from the field. Let's get into it. Welcome to Smart Franchising with Fransmart, Team Takeover. Hello, and thanks for joining in. Welcome to the Fransmart Team Takeover edition of Smart Franchising with Fransmart. We decided to be a part of it, speak directly with the industry veterans, and learn from them. I'm Jolly Cabrani, Vice President Franchise Development at Fransmart. I've been with Fransmart for almost 15 years and been part of the growth of some amazing brands in our portfolio. I'm excited to have this opportunity today to speak with McLain Hoogland, largest franchisee of Marco's Pizza. We'll get to learn through his experiences growing this wonderful chain. McLain, thanks for joining in. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. I really appreciate you all having me. So I'm the largest franchisee of Marco's Pizza right now, and then we run a family business called Highland Ventures, and Hoogland Restaurant Group is the largest operating company that's owned by Highland Ventures.
Right. So let's dive into your family's history. How did you go from family video to Marco's Pizza? What was that transition like?
Sure. Yeah. So history of the company. So Highland is kind of a long story, but Highland Ventures used to be called Mid-States Appliance and Supply, which was out of Springfield, Illinois in 1948. My great-grandfather started it, and it was a wholesale business kind of before that was what happened. You brought things we were the first company to bring in Sony products, for example, back in the 60s. And so we had a catalog, like a Sears catalog and that stuff. And so from there, we started to rent movies. From there, we were selling beta tapes, and it wasn't going well. And so my grandfather decided to start renting the tape players out of the back of the warehouse with the movie. And that was when the video rental business basically was born. I'd say it's between us and there's a guy in Washington State that maybe says that he started it first, but we were one of the first, if not the first, video rental chains. And then from there, they just started to expand. So it was started to buy real estate, which was a big thing. That was really the play, was buying real estate. And from there, there's a lot of directions that I could go here, but it just continued to go. My dad took over when we had about 50 family videos and was instrumental in the growth side. My grandfather started, but my dad really did all the work. And we got to, I think, just under 900 units, privately owned, 900 family videos. And I think we were in 24 states or so at the time at our largest. And we owned all the real estate as well. And then in 2000, so family video was continuing to operate for a long time. We actually just closed in 2021. And so my dad wanted to start to basically put other things into our space. And so in 2010, he started looking at, what would go really well with movies, pizza. It was the whole pizza and a movie, and it was supposed to be collaborative. So most of our early locations actually had a window between the Marco's Pizza and the video rent and family video, which was fun. So you could get movies and then order a pizza, get your movie, and get both at the same time, which was great. But we had to look, because we wanted to put it in our real estate. We had to look at brands that weren't, that were newer, that weren't really well established, like a Domino's or Pizza Hut or anything. And so we found Marco's because they were actually already renting from us down in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and great product, great team. Really the same qualities that we had in family video is all fighting against. Family video is always going against the mold. Even though we were 900 units, it was very low. We were trying to stay local, and we weren't Blockbuster. We're very much we're not this corporate entity. Every family video is a local place. And Yeah. So, I mean, and then from there in 2012, we opened very quickly. We opened 150 units in 2.5 years just because we had our own real estate to put it into. So it wasn't very difficult to do. And then started to learn the restaurant business and started to grow from there. And this is all before me. I came in 2016. And so that period of fast growth had happened before I got it. So yeah, it's a little bit short story to a short part of a very long story.
No, that sounds great. So do you kind of remember the moment when you realized you wanted to be part of the business, you wanted to grow the business? Like what got you into it?
Yeah. So my family. So I'm one of six. So I'm the oldest of six kids. And with a family business, we were a part of the business my whole life. I mean, I was always doing things. I mean, I started running movies back out when I was 12 years old. And then, so it was just a family business. I mean, we were very involved. And so when I was 16 or 17, I became a clerk and just started to learn the video store business. And then I ended up working for our construction partner. And so I, did commercial drywall for a summer, in college. And I did, we had a bunch of other businesses that we were running. But I think, so for me, I mean, my background, I went to school and then I went into the Marine Corps. And then from the Marine Corps, went to business school. And then from there, it was really what direction do I want to go? And there's an ownership, there's an ownership, a true ownership, but a mental ownership of a family business where I felt like I was needed to come in. And my dad really wanted me to come in. Marco's needed to be run differently and really learn the restaurant industry. It wasn't really performing well for us when I first came in. And he just said, "Hey, I really need you to come in and start to take this over and learn the business and figure out what makes it tick." And I was, weighing whether or not I wanted to come into the business. And it just, for me, it made the most sense to, control my own destiny a little, to come in. So, but yeah, the multi-generational part is it's a fun aspect of it. We've just been around for so long, but unlike other companies, we've morphed quite a bit. We're not just the same company that has been since 1948. Like, I mean, mid-states, we don't have any sort of a wholesale, company anymore. That's completely gone. The family video's gone,
So when you joined the family business, how many Marco's Pizza did you guys have, and how many do you have today?
We had 150 when I joined, and right now we have 122, but there's a lot of story in that too. So
yeah, I'm sure. Okay. So coming back to Marco's Pizza, like, you've scaled it to 122 units now. What drove that decision? Like, what made you and your family kind of expand Marco's Pizza over maybe some other brands at that time?
I think for us, the goal is always to be the biggest for us. Honestly, it's my dad still says that I'm just running a little baby company because he had 900 family videos and I only have 122 Marcos. So there's a little bit of a competitive edge, but my family, the company, we've always just been very growth oriented, like high growth. And I think we are doing other brands, by the way, just not in food. But it's once we really love the brand of Marco's from the quality perspective, like, and chain pizza, I don't think there's a competitor that can beat us in quality and culture and what we have. It's just, we're the fifth largest pizza chain, but we just have a long way to go in the sense of just brand awareness. But I truly believe that once people try us for the first time and try Marco's for the first time, it's hands down the best chain pizza they've had. So I think we win. And that's really what we wanted to focus on. Just like family video, we wanted to provide a customer experience that was different just from just doing a chain. So it worked very well for us. That's what really got my dad excited about Marco's, was it wasn't just, oh, you're joining a big franchise that's already existed. He wanted to be part of the growth. And so for us, as the largest franchisee, I had a great relationship with with the leadership team at Marco's. So I have a lot of say. I mean, they rely on me for, I'm on the MIFA, the Marco's Independent Franchise Association board. So, I work a lot with the CEO and the COO, and we communicate a lot. And so I feel like I have a little bit more say slightly on the direction that Marco's is going based off of our size. I think that's what you don't want to, you want to be able to control your own destiny in a way. I don't think you'll ever get there completely as a franchisee. Obviously, that's not why you go into franchising, but generally it's, you have a little bit more control.
So as you were growing these, like, what would you say your top 3 strategic plays in terms of growing smarter, not just bigger, but like growing the smart way? What would you say to our viewers? Like,
Well, I can give you a couple. I can give you what not to do, and I can give you what to do, because it's part of what I had to fix. So when we first started to open, we were very focused on the real estate first. It was all about, well, we have the real estate. So if we think that if Marco says, hey, that's a good location, we were not focused on growing it brand wise from one market at a time. We were just like, hey, we have this whole market and we have all this real estate available. Let's just open wherever. And looking back, obviously, I mean, it was a mistake. It was very hard operationally to control geographically. I mean, so right now we have 122 locations and we have 21 different markets, which is not really where you want to be. I mean, you could go into the Charlotte market and have 50 units just at Charlotte, and so you could be in 2 bigger, markets and have 122 locations, and we're spread. So it's from a command and control perspective from the Marine Corps, it's very difficult to control. And so what we did, one of the reasons that we went from 150 to 122, and there's some scaling in there, was that we had all these outliers. We had units that were 3 hours away from any other unit in a really small town that wasn't performing and didn't have any competition. And so I had to go through and really look at, does it make sense strategically to continue to operate that location, or should we repurpose and, let's say, Omaha, Nebraska. We had one that was 2 hours northwest of Omaha, and it wasn't performing because you can't control it as well. And so we closed that location and we ended up opening 3 more in Omaha. So now we have 6 units in the actual, area of Omaha. Much easier to control the overhead costs. The district manager has an easier time getting to the restaurants. There's less drive time, gas mileage. It's all important. And to me, the further away you get from that core, the harder it is. I mean, if you have 10 locations in Omaha, you can run 10. But if you have one outlier that's 2 hours away, I think you can only run 8, let's say. And if you have 2 outliers, you can run 6. And because of the drive time. So it's a really, I think the geography is a really important piece. So one of the first things I would be looking at is looking at that specific market that you're in and saying, okay, how fast can I scale in this market? Not looking 2 hours away or 3 hours away, but this market, Dallas or Tulsa, and open 3, 4, 5 units quickly. I think people have a tendency to think, I think an hour and a half to 2 hours is too far. And some people are like, oh, well, it's only 2 hours away. But suddenly when you get to 5 units, that 2 hours, it's a pretty significant time where you have to go onto one location.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we're talking about the units. So, somebody who may be new looking into franchising, we say just opening 1 unit is you're just replacing maybe your job. So what would you say, like, is it 5 units? What is that sweet spot for somebody who's starting out to kind of have as their goal?
I think it depends on the market, but it's at least 3. But I would say 5, depending on the volume, right? So, I mean, if you have 3 locations that are doing 1.5 million in revenue each, I think you'll be fine. That's enough volume for you to have 3 and be fine. But generally, you're looking at 800 to 1.1, and you're probably looking for 3 to 5 units, 4 or 5 at that point. But I think 3 is the minimum that you need to start to take take a step back and not be the actual operator of the units.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so let's dive into real estate, because that's obviously a big part of what you do. So how would you say Highland Ventures like approaches real estate, maybe differently or not, but like maybe when we compare it to other players like Starbucks, Domino's or something? What is your real estate strategy?
You mean from just real estate, or from the Marco's perspective, or both?
Both in a way. Or I mean, our viewers are franchisees or potential
Sure.
franchisees, right? So what would you say when they're looking at real estate in that sense? What should they be focusing on?
So I would say it goes back to what I said earlier. If you're going into a franchise, I think a lot of people go in with this, oh, I'll buy the real estate and then I'll open my franchise. I think that's wrong. I think it's about, I'll tell you what we shifted. So the way that we look at new locations now is what's right for Marco's Pizza, right? Like, is that location the right location for pizza first, right? Then now you say, okay, great. I found a corner. That's the right location for pizza for what I want. It's got the right demographics. It's got the right ingress and egress. It's got the right stoplight, traffic count, whatever you're looking at for whatever franchise you're in. Then you start to dive into the real estate side. And so we're always trying to buy, but if it depends on what your goal is. If your first goal is to open as many Marcos as you can, or as many franchises as you can, then your first goal is having the right location for that concept. Your second goal is then the real estate side. So I'll go in and say, okay, my first goal, I need to open a location in Dallas. I found a location. Now I'm going to engage with the landlord and say, hey, I'm interested in purchasing your location. They say, absolutely not interested in selling, don't want anything to do with it. I'll continue down the lease path then, because the goal is to grow, right? If your goal is to buy real estate, then I think you should be thinking differently about what you want to do on a franchise from a franchise perspective, because I think those two things don't always add up. It's something that we fell into on the negative side from Family Video. We forced pizza restaurants into existing real estate because we already owned it, right? Some of them have done great. And I'm not saying we didn't have great real estate, but some of them you would say, oh, here's a great market. We love this market. This is the perfect location. Oh, we have a location that we already own a mile away. Well, let's just put it in there. Well, that's not the right spot. It was the other spot. And so now you have an underperforming operating company in the real estate that you own. And now you're in a position where you have to own the real estate. And now your operating company that's paying for the real estate isn't doing as well as you before. So I think you have to balance, you really have to look inside and say, what am I really trying to do here? Am I trying to grow the restaurant concept, or am I trying to buy real estate? I think they're two totally separate things. They can benefit each other when it works, but it doesn't always work. So I've done both. I mean, I've gone in, opened Marco's Pizzas and said, hey, this is the right location. And I was unable to buy the real estate, and I've gone in and been able to buy the real estate. We bought full strip centers, and it's worked. So now I have an operating company and kind of get both for what I want. So.
Right. Yeah, we get approached a lot of times by people who may have seen a location in their market and they feel like this location is going to be great for this concept. I want to put it in there, but that's not always the case. It just, you have to kind of make sure it's a good fit for, both sides.
Absolutely.
But, cool. So a little bit, let's talk about, maybe, you're a veteran. What would you say to veterans who are looking to now get into maybe franchising? How does a franchise system play to their strengths? What kind of advice would you give them?
Sure. Yeah. So a little bit on the background. So I was in the Marine Corps from 2010 to 2014. I was an infantry officer. And I was stationed out in Camp Pendleton. So did deployment to Afghanistan, deployment to Southeast Asia in the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit. had a great time. But I think one of the things for veterans is that you go in and especially on the infantry side or just whatever their military occupational specialty is, they get put into a box and saying, oh, you were an infantry Marine. Well, you should probably be a firefighter or a cop. And I think it's very short-sighted of leadership in general that that's all that they've learned, right? You've learned how to lead teams. You've learned how to make decisions. You've learned how to problem solve. You've learned you've learned some pretty high level things in very stressful situations. You've learned how to train people. You've learned, the military is all about following SOPs, which is restaurant, right? I mean, there's a very specific way that you're supposed to do things. There's a very specific way that you're supposed to do things in restaurant. And I think that's where the strength lies. We get people from the military that excel because there's a rule set in franchising. It's not a free for all. You have to be creative. You have to problem solve. You have to deal with people. You have to learn how to run a business. You've got to understand marketing. You got to understand your consumer. And I think all of those attributes are given to you, earned, I would say, in the military, no matter what branch you're in and no matter what your specialty is. I mean, you'd think the way that the military works sometimes, it's like, oh, if you want to go into a restaurant, then you should have been a cook. And it's like, well, I think there's a lot more to running a business, a restaurant business, than just knowing how to make the food, right? The food is probably the easiest part. So it's all the other stuff that comes into play, the hiring, firing, and whatnot.
Yeah, that makes sense. So talking about new franchisees or prospects who are looking into franchising or maybe just started with their first unit, what would you say they should be focusing on year one? Like, what should their vision be? Is it profitability? Is it, scaling? Is it the team? What would you say?
Well, I think most people would say that they want to make money, right? So it's like, well, I want to open a restaurant because I want to make a lot of money. And I think that is the complete wrong answer. It's not. The first year is dialing in your operations and growing your customer base and growing your revenue. It's, you can, if you're doing $10,000 a week, which is terrible, you can make money. You make a couple $100, you might make $1,000 a month. Like you're not, but if you think about, you're going to put all your resources, whatever stockpile that you have of your investment, and you're going to put it into marketing. You're going to put it into brand awareness. You're going to put it into engaging with the community, doing events, giving away, free things to get trial, to as you open. It's like the idea is provide this perfect experience for people, indeterminate of whether or not you're spending a lot or making a lot. It's just driving people in and saying, hey, wow, that was an amazing first experience. I'm going to continue to come back and get that cycle going as much as you can. That will lead to the most profit that you could get. I mean, that's going to drive your restaurant to, 1.2, 1.3, $1.4 million. Now you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars of profit. You can hire the people that you need to hire to continue to operate your business. I think on that side too, one of the reasons that people, what I would say, fail is because because their volume is low, they feel like they can't hire people. And the thing that I always talk about is what comes first, revenue or people? And the answer is people. You cannot do the revenue without having the staff to make the food and provide the service that you need. And what happens if you drive in the revenue and you don't have the people, now you messed up the experience. So they're not going to return. So you have to, when I'm talking about driving revenue, it's you're hiring, you have enough people, you have enough, for us in food and pizza, you have enough drivers to take it, right? You have enough cooks, you've done enough training, you've spent money up front to make sure that you're already making perfect pizzas when the store opens. And so I think a lot of people just kind of focus on, well, this is the budget and I'm only doing $10,000 a week, so this is as many people as I can afford. It's like, okay, but now you're hamstringing yourself. You're not going to be able to, with 5 people in a restaurant, you're not going to be able to do $20,000 now. It's physically impossible. You can't make pizzas fast enough, or you're going to get it done. You're going to provide horrible customer service, a bad product, and you won't stay. So I think that answered your question or what?
Yeah, no, definitely. And then, you were talking about like hiring people, right? Like Dan always says, you hire for the sales you want. You base
Right.
it. That's what it is. Like,
Hire for the sales you want.
yeah, it's really directly related. So coming to that, like, so when people are looking into franchising, they're starting to explore, and you've obviously been part of the restaurant industry, and it's one of the toughest in those terms, like, whether it's labor challenges or other things. What would you say, like, is food, should that be their first venture or not? Like, what would you recommend? Would it be something more simpler? What it's used?
I have to think about that one. Would I recommend food? It goes back to what you want. So people that are very successful in food have a background in food. I mean, a lot of them the most successful operators that I know grew up in food, right? They were operating restaurants with their family, or they were in other franchise, they were doing or working for another franchise and learning it that way, and learned all the skills, and then said, hey, I can take this. I can do my own thing. I'm a great operator. The ones that I see fail come from a background that has nothing to do with retail, food, business. I mean, you'll get a school teacher that says, I would like to start a restaurant. And I'm not saying that it can't work, but I think that's not where you would want to start. If you wanted to change a career, you have to realize that if you're going into franchising into food, that is a career. You are now a restaurant operator. Like you need to be an expert in restaurant operations, no matter what type of brand it is. You have to understand it's a small margin business. It's easy to lose money. It's hard to make money. And I mean, I think people are shocked that you can have a bad week. Something can slightly shift. I mean, we're seeing it. We've seen it since COVID. Food prices are going like this, and you can go from making a ton of money to making almost no money overnight. And I don't think people realize it's just a very competitive space. So I would say that didn't really answer your question. If your first venture into franchising and you have no food experience, I would say do not go into food. Okay. That is the clear answer.
Right. I mean, it is complicated. And honestly, when I talk to people and they're looking at the idea of being a restaurant owner or being a franchise owner in the restaurant space is very appealing to most people, but I don't think so a lot of people realize the challenges that come with it. So it's a huge adjustment. So I always ask them, like, why food? Like, what attracts you to it? Are you ready for this? Because it's great, but you have to have the mindset to be ready for it.
That's exactly right. You have to have the mindset, and it's not saying if you're talking to somebody and they say, I want to learn this. Like I'm passionate about cooking my whole life. And yes, I'm a school teacher, but I want to make this transition and operate a restaurant and learn and they understand that they're going to be in the restaurant, learning it and working it. I think they can be successful. I think a lot of people come in and they think that it's a relatively passive investment. And if you're coming in to say, hey, this thing's going to run itself and I'm going to hire a general manager and everything's going to be great, you're going to lose a lot of money.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Put your money in the stock market and don't do that.
Yeah. So you work with a lot of franchisees at Marco's, and of course, this being one of the reasons why some people may not be as successful as others. Are there other things that you see that franchisees who basically make it and franchisees who are average or not doing as well? What do you think are the common mistakes people are making?
I think one of the most common that I see is not emphasizing the marketing side. I think that it's really difficult, and a lot of franchises have gotten around that by doing national ad funds, because basically franchisees aren't spending the local money to drive their business. Because I think it's very hard to measure marketing just in general. It's gotten a lot easier now with digital, but it's very hard to understand, okay, I went and talked to this school, or I went and did this engagement, and how much did I get back? And I think that there's anecdotal evidence that it works, right? You're going to see you're engaging with the community, and that's going to drive people in, and you have to spend your time and money to do that. And I think people just don't, it goes back to the profit side. They're thinking, I can't spend that money. I don't have the money to spend. It's like, okay, well, if you want to be $1 million location, then you need to spend and do the work with the franchise to figure out how you can measure your local store marketing. Is there programs that they have that you can, tools that they have where you can measure it so you know where your dollars are going? I think it's the biggest frustrating thing with marketing is that sometimes you just feel like you're just dumping money into a black box and you don't know it's working. You're like, well, this could be something else that's driving this in. I'm spending all this money. If I cut it off, does it change? Does it go up? Does it, And right. I think it's confusing for franchisees because it's not visible. Operations is clear. Yeah, I'm making pizzas, I'm making burgers, I'm putting it out the door, I'm getting money. It's very easy to understand, but the marketing side is complex.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I see a lot of first-time franchise owners, especially like once they built the store, they have obviously spent a lot of money in building the store. And the expectation is I've done that. Now it should make money for me. And that's where I feel a lot of times people don't understand that there has to be marketing. There has to be operational excellence, just things that, profitability is not the only thing. You have to get there. You have to establish it. So
absolutely.
I totally agree. Yeah.
And there's this sweat equity side.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, it's like, you can still on the profit, like you can make profit. You just have to cover.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're working 80 hours a week and covering a whole person, not saying that you have to do that, but I have general managers out there. We have a bonus program that's based off of profit. General managers that are smart understand that if they work an extra 10 hours, they're salaried, and that means they don't have to put those people on shift. They have better control of their restaurant. They have better control of their product quality. They're in the place where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. They're there on a Friday night and a Saturday night, making sure that when 80% of our product is going out, they're getting eyes on that. They're putting themselves in the right position to be successful. And I think franchisees are doing the same. The best franchisees that come from operations, like they're there on Friday and Saturday night. Like that's when the business is there for pizza. That's when they're there. You don't see them coming in the morning and leaving at 4 because, now you've lost control.
So, you've been in the food space for so long. I mean, there's always things that evolve and stuff. What do you think is the evolution of value? Like, what is customer looking for? What is their perception? Is it just a good price? Is it the food? What are the trends you are seeing? Like, your thoughts on that?
I think the landscape in food is shifting rapidly. I mean, I think people are writing about it almost consistently right now because since COVID, third-party delivery, DoorDash and Uber Eats has completely shifted the landscape of what food and value is, right? It used to be, specifically talking about pizza, there was 2 things that you could get delivered: your Chinese food and pizza, basically. I mean, I'm sure there were some others, but generally it's pizza and Chinese food. And third party comes along, and now you can get anything you want. And you can not only just get that, but you could decide that your family wants tacos and pizza, and you could have both of those things picked up and delivered. So value for the consumer has changed from just price to convenience. And I think you're seeing it with Amazon. You're seeing it with all the delivery, this last mile push to get people things faster as being shipped. It's being hurt a little bit just because of the economy and just the prices of things are going up. But I think value is just shifted. It used to be, the pizza wars, the burger wars. It's just price point. And now it's like, okay, well, I need something in 20 minutes. Okay, I need more than just pizza. I need options, right? I need speed. I need quality. Like, people put different values on different things. And I think all these brands are jockeying to figure out what their consumer wants the most of, right? If you look at Chick-fil-A, they figured it out. Like they have a cult, it's quality. They want the Chick-fil-A quality experience, the consistency. That's what they want. And so Chick-fil-A doesn't have to deep discount or do anything like that. But people think it's like, oh, can we be like Chick-fil-A? Well, they've spent the last, 30 years, 40 years building this brand and holding the line of what they are and who they are. And so it pays off. I mean, now they've expanded. Their brand is expanded across the United States. So now they're a household name. 10 years ago, they weren't a household name. It was just a place that wasn't open on Sundays when you were in certain areas. And so I think I think value has shifted, but I think specifically on pizza, the delivery space has changed. We're competing not just with pizza anymore. We're competing with everybody else that's out there. And for other restaurants, let's say normally a sit down steak restaurant, that's an extra revenue stream for them in a sense, right? They used to only do sit down. They didn't do delivery. Now they have the ability to charge a higher price, and somebody that maybe wasn't going to come to them is now going to come to them because they can deliver it to their home. So for us, we're kind of pizza is getting hit, and it's come full circle. We went from third party delivery was supposed to be this, oh, it's not your customer. That's what they said at the beginning. It's not your customer. You're getting extra people. And I'm going, that doesn't make any sense to me. I think at the beginning, it was kind of that way. It was more of a marketing. It got your brand out there. But if that's true, then I'd be up 17% because we're doing, 17% of our business is third party and we're not up 17%. So they clearly just cannibalized our sales. And now it's come full circle where it used to be, okay, well, they're going to take the delivery for you. You're not dealing with that. Now you can do self-delivery. So now our customers have gone to their platform. And now we're delivering to the same customers. Like Domino's is delivering to the same customers that they used to be delivering to themselves. It just reduced the profit margin. So I don't know where that's going to go. I think with the advent of AI and all those, technology is moving so rapidly right now. I think DoorDash is looking at it. Uber Eats, they're looking at it from the technology perspective of what's next. How does AI fold into this? Do we really want to do delivery? If we could just become a platform where people could go to order their food. I think Domino's coming in and doing 100% self-delivery has completely shifted their model.
Okay. So, well, this was great. There was definitely a lot of learning. So before we dive into a couple quick fun facts about you, is there any other advice you would like to give to the viewers who may be looking at franchising as their next move? Anything you would like to mention?
Yeah, I think the one, be very critical of the franchise that you're going to. Do your homework. You really need to understand everything that they're bringing to the table. How is their leadership, right? How is it? What kind of marketing have they done over the last couple of years? What's their culture like? What are they trying to drive? How do they assist you in opening new restaurants? Do they have internal construction teams and architect teams, or are they external and you're kind of on your own? Do they have a really good operational understanding of, looking at their ops manual? Do they have good videos? I think people look at, oh, I like this food. If we're talking about food specifically, I like this place because of their food. And that's one piece of the puzzle. But if you're joining a franchise system, you're buying, if it's just food and everything else is terrible, they don't have good ops, they don't have good culture, then why wouldn't you just go start your own thing? You're paying them to do a service. You're joining a franchise because they bring all of that to the table. And if it's like, well, you have to do all of the construction yourself and go source your own architect and go source your own GC, and we'll help you with the site selection, but that's basically it. That's hard for people. People don't understand the real estate side. They don't know how to do lease negotiation. They don't know how, if you're coming in from external, they need to understand, how am I going to get this done and what support am I going to get from the franchise? So I think just digging deeper was what I would say. Asking a lot of questions.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And people are passionate about things they want to invest in, but I totally agree with you. Evaluating the team, how are the franchisors? What are the SOPs they have in place? Like, how's that gonna, make an easy transition for them? Yeah, no, this was great. So we'll move on to quick fun things. One book that shaped your thinking.
Ooh, a book that shaped my thinking. I kind of go towards, I read a lot of the business books, but I read from my military background. I was also a history major in college at Vanderbilt, repping Vanderbilt football, got a good season coming up. But I think there's a book, I think it's becoming more popular right now because of some TV shows, but it's called Once an Eagle. I don't know if you've ever read that book. It's a military history book, but is probably one of the more thought provoking books on leadership, pure leadership, and how to lead people and how to have good character and do the things that you're supposed to do as a leader. So it doesn't, for me, I give my team a lot of books that would not be considered business books. I think a lot of those books, some of them are very good, but a lot of them just repeat the same things. And I think learning leadership is the most important side of how to communicate with people. And I think that comes from different types of experiences than just business side. So I obviously with my background, I tend to lean towards the military. But there's actually a commandant's reading list, which is the Marine Corps. The commandant of the Marine Corps is the head honcho of the Marine Corps. And there's a list it's 200 something books of all ranks that gives you a good understanding of, how does the Marine Corps look at leadership? And I'd read most of them, and I throw those out to people all the time. So it's a fun list. That's a nice thing. You get a list. It's like, well, that's interesting. All the Marine officers and enlisted are reading these books. It's kind of smart. So,
okay, great. A daily habit or a habit that makes you a better operator. What would you say?
Ooh, daily habit. I think I'm going to go a little off on this one too. I think for me, mentally, what makes me a better operator is my mental state, like being quick, being energized. And so I have two things here. One, I think is exercise. I think it's a huge part of just staying on top of everything, right? It's running a restaurant and running a company is very stressful. I mean, there's just a lot happening. You can dig into the numbers. You're constantly staring at spreadsheets and you're looking at all the different KPIs that you have to control, and you're dealing with people and firing people and hiring people. And I think people need to have some sort of a break mentally to operate their best. And to me, it's exercise. It could be something different for somebody else, but I think it's taking time for yourself to make sure that there's one thing that you want to do, like a hobby, it's exercise, it's whatever it is, of making sure you're doing that thing so that you don't get burned out. I think a lot of operators just burn out. They just, you're working a lot of hours, you're in the restaurant. You got to find something that's not, it can dominate your life, basically. The other side on the business side, because you can exercise all you want, but you got to pay attention to your business. I am very diligent about waking up in the morning, and the first thing I do is look at a report that has all my operational KPIs. And so I've been doing it since 2016. I wake up pretty early, and it's in my inbox already. And that is the first. I get a cup of coffee, and I'm looking at all of how my business is operating and any issues that might be coming up, so I can start to go through those early, so I have a direction for the day. I think a lot of people probably say that, but I think it's just so important that you have a pulse on your business, and the business is operation. So and as you get into your day, you can get distracted by a lot. There's a lot of things that come, there's fires that come up, there's all these, and suddenly you've gone 3 hours and you don't even know how you did the day before. You don't even know if there's any other issues that you might have that you're not even talking about or working with your team on because you haven't spent the time to, it's 30 minutes a day. And I look at that. Sometimes it goes longer depending on how the day was. But generally 30 minutes a day, I'm looking at that, and I can already start to say, okay, I need to focus on this today I build my list, my task list of what I'm doing. Yeah. So that was two things.
Right. If not restaurants, where do you see yourself being involved if it wasn't for restaurants?
I don't know where we are size wise and what I've learned about franchising. I think our next venture would probably be, if we were to stay in franchising in any way, it'd be as a franchisor. So, but I would say we're leaning into healthcare. So it's to me, it's just a very different type of business. And we've done a good job at Highland. So we're in physical therapy is one of the brands that we're starting. It's called In Tune Physical Therapy. My brother Ben's involved, and my brother Sam actually just came in and is part of that. He's learning the business, and it's just so different. It's still people based, but it's, in restaurant you're selling, and in retail you're selling a thing, right? You're selling a piece of clothing or you're selling food. In healthcare, you're selling a service. And so the revenues is the PTs, the doctors, the dentists. And so we like to diversify in that sense. It's, we have one brand, Marco's, that does well in a certain economy, and you hopefully have another brand that does well in a different economy or a different demographic. And then we always had real estate that we still own, almost 1,000 commercial properties across the US that we're growing that side too. So, but I guess the answer would be healthcare.
Yeah. That's a great industry for sure.
Yeah.
All right, great. Well, this was wonderful. Thanks again, McLain, for your time.
Yeah, of
course. And we really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to Smart Franchising with Fransmart. I'm your host, Dan Rowe. If you enjoyed today's episode, this podcast is only going to get better. Please like, comment, and subscribe to hear more from the most successful franchisors and franchisees, and we'll see you next time.